Did y'all know Dollar Tree had peach cobbler? Well, they don't, but let me show you how to make it. Here are all the ingredients. I even made the pie crust from scratch, but you don't have to do that because Dollar Tree actually has a cobbler mix. So here's the recipe. I actually got it from some book I have, but I started with adding the flour, salt, and sugar and mixing that up. I grated my butter and I froze that. I think that's all per the recipe's instructions. But if you buy the Cobbler mix from Dollar Tree, it's really only saving you about $2.50. But the total with all the ingredients is $13.75. So that's probably like 14 or 14.25. So now again, we're just making our dough recipe. So what I realized is with this margarine, it's a lot watery than butter. So in the wing recipe, when I melted it and put it in the fridge, after I took it out, there was a whole bunch of water. And I'm only saying this because it makes the dough wetter than expected. So I wind up adding more flour just throughout me making the pie crust. So really, I probably could have decreased maybe half the water, or maybe not really added much water in there to begin with. I don't know. But yeah, so we're adding our frozen butter and we're just gonna mix it. I apologize, y'all. If y'all hearing some weird noise in the background, it's the dishwasher going. But if you're going to make pie crust with actual butter, do it per the recipe's instructions. But if you're gonna use margarine, I would maybe add only 2 tablespoons of water, if any at all, because it's just gonna be really wet. So this is me adding more flour because again it's wet. And I wound up refrigerating this for just really until I cook the peach cobbler stuff, and then I let that cool down so it's not cooking the pie crust before I want it to, but also it might not be a completely bad thing. I do want to reiterate, if you do choose to make the pie dough from scratch, you'll still have butter, sugar, and flour left over that you can use elsewhere. So for the peach cobbler, I use Stovetop Kisses, Miss Danny's recipe as my base. So she doesn't cook her peaches down, but I like to because I don't like big thick old peaches in my stuff. She also doesn't add like cinnamon or nutmeg, but I added in mine just because I like for mine to have a little bit more flavor. But again, it's nothing against hers. Hers is great. Love it down. So this is me just adding my sugar and brown sugar, and I taste it to make sure it's sweet enough for my liking, because again, I feel like recipes are just guides, and I make sure like all the cornstarch and the flour and all that stuff is per the instructions, because that's important in baking. But when it comes to flavoring things, just like in cooking, I take my own liberties. So yeah, adding my cinnamon and nutmeg, and I'm gonna wind up tasting it just to make sure it's cinnamony and nutmeggy enough for me. I don't like peaches by itself, so that's why I like to add all the other things to it. I made my own vanilla extract, and because she used bourbon in hers or whiskey in hers, I made sure to use the bourbon vanilla extract that I had. And of course, I tasted to make sure it was enough bourbon and vanilla, and it wasn't, so I added some more, and now it's just a whole bunch of stirring. So here's the cornstarch mix, and I added more cinnamon and nutmeg, and I used some of the peach cobbler juice to stir in my cornstarch to make the slurry. And as I'm stirring, I'm also trying to break down the peaches to soften them up. So again, they're not big size peaches, they're more smaller and bite sized. So we're making our slurry, and then we're gonna add some of that in, or you can add it towards the end when it's cooled down before you put it in the oven, because that's really why you put the cornstarch slurry in. So you can put it in now, or you can put it in later. I would suggest later when it's going in the oven. And now we're going to roll out our dough. So I put flour on the counter just so it won't stick, but as you can see, it's kind of sticking to the aluminum foil. So make sure we got our flour covered, and I'm rolling it out, and I realize it's still sticking to my rolling pan. So we add more flour so it's not sticky and it's a little dry. And now we just roll it out. So I didn't know what to do, so I found some ramekins, and you can use the top of a cup, or if you have cookie cutters like I do, I just use those, and I punch holes in them, and I put them in the bottom of the cookie cutter. The ramekin, and I just spread it out. And that's basically it. And I found a smaller cookie cutter, and I punched out some more dough and put those on top of our peach cobbler filling. And that's really it. You put it in the oven for, I don't know, maybe 30-40 minutes until we think the pie crust is brown. I just added extra steps. You don't have to do pie. Oh, I'm also making a sauce to go on top. Completely forgot about it. So I used the extra peach cobbler juice, the rest of the cornstarch slurry, and then I just put it on the stove and thickened it up. And so I guess it was too thick, so I added some water, and it was perfect. Of course, if it coats the back of the spoon, it doesn't move, then it's ready. And I drizzle this on top of vanilla ice cream, and oh my gosh, it's heavenly. It's well seasoned, it's cinnamony, it's nutmeggy, it's full of spices. How I like my peach cobbler, and really how I like anything. So I wanted y'all to hear it boiling or bubbling out the oven, but that's how it looks. And here are the sauce and the peach cobbler side by side. The peaches are nice and cooked down. They're not thick, but it was so good, y'all. Thanks for watching.